From Jason Basin to Danny Dummy. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Jason Burns.
And I'm Danny Dummy. I'm Danny Nucci, and this is the What About podcast.
Danny, today we are throwing back to something I loved growing up, which is Garbage Pail Kids. I'm curious, what were some of your go-to toys and/or interests as a kid?
My interests as a kid were drugs. So I liked a lot of drugs. That was good as a kid.
Do drugs retain their value after a long time?
I mean, it's a nice, it's nice if you can get them consistently. It's tough as a kid. It's easier than buying beer, but on par with that. No, I liked Vespas.
Vespas
as a kid, yeah, like scooters. Those like Italian.
Sure.
Yeah, I liked Vespas. I liked GI Joes.
Mm-hmm.
Back when I was a kid, when I first moved to the United States from Italy.
At what age for the listener?
That was I was 7,
mm-hmm.
And I moved to New York, and I started playing with these action figures called Big Jim and Big Jeff by Mattel. They were like these macho Ken dolls.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite a G.I. Joe, but like a macho Ken. And
Mm-hmm.
I used to do little adventures with those guys.
I bet you really can't market a toy called Big Jim to kids anymore.
Yeah, they were all big. It was like Big Jim, Big Jeff, Big Josh. Literally, Big Josh had an axe. I remember that. And if you push the back of their on the back, they bring the hand down like a hammer.
Chopping action.
Yeah, hand chopping action. That. Exactly. Yeah. Well, the guy today is fantastic. Joe Simko, what a talent. I went on his website and I got lost, which I shared with him. He's an incredible artist and quite a busy man, as we learned. Artist extraordinaire, Joe Simko.
Hey, Joe.
There he is.
Thanks for reaching out. I appreciate the invite.
Thank you, man. You are one talented little bastard. I tell you that, man. Holy cow.
Thank you.
I was looking at your website. Now I got lost, man. It's got a lovely scroll effect because you scroll down as opposed to the side, and I was just mesmerized. There's so much interesting detail in it. It's really, really cool. And I was like, it's like Robert Williams and Crumb evolved.
Thank you. Well, yeah. Those guys are great. I've just been fortunate enough to work in the field of arts, actually be able to get work doing art, and I take it to different. It's kind of all still in the same theme, but different avenues and different jobs, like from comic books to poster art.
Yeah, I love the poster art. There's some Misfits stuff in there that's just outstanding.
Yeah, favorite bands that I've got to work with. So yeah, all of it's been just an amazing ride. So yeah.
So I actually had a question about that, Joe. Is you got a band like Meallica who has 4 very distinct personalities, and you're having to get approval from all of them, I'd imagine. What are those poster gigs? Are those tough to get to the final finish line for?
That one I lucked out. So the operations manager from Meallica reached out to me, so I just dealt with him.
Nice.
I didn't have to deal with four-headed monster, the guys, and I think they were doing a bunch of stuff. It was for their 40th anniversary tour. So they had a few different poster artists doing stuff. The poster I did was for the collectors or the fans who bought into this big package hotel weekend where you get to all this merch and you get to go see their show. And in their hotel room is a bunch of swag. And my poster was part of that swag bag for the. Nice. So I think it just came down to they were just approving anything. They were approving my stuff, but they had just so much stuff going on that it was just I didn't have any problem. It was just whatever I gave them, luckily was good enough. And so for that band, I dealt with just the operations manager. Misfits, I deal with either the promoter or now I deal with the manager, John Caffiero. But Jerry Only, we know each other well, and so. It's incredible to work with these bands. And Gwar, I grew up listening to, and those guys I deal directly with.
Mm-hmm. Do they all have to approve?
Not real. I deal with the drummer for Gwar is usually the guy who runs kind of the operations also. So, and they're easy too. Just whatever I wind up giving them, and they just continue to use my stuff. And,
just enjoy that. That's not a common experience.
Yeah, I've been on the other end. I've had jobs when I was first starting. after I got out of college, I graduated from the School of Visual Arts in Manhattan here in New York. And, I was just trying to freelance on my own, take anything, and so I was just
So
like,
you started basically going, this is what I'm going to do. You went to college for it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, ever since a kid, drawing, most kids draw. At some point, they probably fall out of it. I stuck with it, just being a horror movie fan, comic book fan, to want to tell my own stories. I took the comic book route, and went to School of Visual Arts for I have a degree in cartooning, so which we're
Shocking.
yeah, right, a real degree, a Bachelor of Arts in and like we were taught by comic book artists from DC, Marvel, Mad Magazine, and so but it's impossible to, well, not impossible, but it was very hard to get work in the comic book industry like right out of the gate.
Well, you could. You just have to do it for free, right?
We would have independent comic book guest speakers come to our class, like, don't get into comic books, get into this field. You're not going to make money.
Well, I've been working in comics for about 20 years, Joe. I work primarily on the educational side now with books that go into libraries and schools. But my daughter wants to do this as well, and I don't know.
If she wants to do it, just like when I tell people that come to my show, like when I do shows or appearances and parents have kids, it's like, oh, should he get into art or should he go to college? I would just say, like, as long as they love it and do it for, for the enjoyment and the excitement to do it first, and then you got to get the job.
Why is it always the people that are making a living doing it are the ones that say, you know what? Don't get into it. Like, here you have three people who have been doing what they've been doing, what they've wanted to do. And we're all like, yeah, if you want, I'm not sure.
Well, I can't speak for Joe. For the listener, we're talking to Joe, and it looks like you're in your studio. But when you work for yourself, it's hard to shut it off. You can't just clock out at 5 o'clock all the time because people expect you to be on when they want you, especially if you're dealing with people in other time zones.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I used to work, one of the first jobs I got was doing storyboards for television commercials. And it was in-house at a studio with a bunch of artists. And and basically it's in advertising. So we were forced to late hours, midnight, 3 a.m, having to stay there in the office.
Did you guys have to agree on what you were doing? Or did you was it delegated, like, you have this piece, I have that piece?
We had an art director that would, from whatever company came to us, like Olive Garden or Coca-Cola, and we got all these cool to work on, these ads that we got to see, on television like 6 months later.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a guy that was really good at figures, and another guy that was really good at just like background scenes, another guy that was good at coloring. And so it kind of like was a jam session where we all just like,
yeah, that's what I was curious about it when you get so many different artists with different backgrounds,
Yeah, for storyboards, for commercial storyboards, not so much film storyboards, but commercials, we had to have a very house style. Like everyone had to match each other. So it's like I got a job in art. It was awesome. I was getting creative stuff done, but it still wasn't my own voice.
So we're talking like, Joe, we're talking like a Tide commercial, and you have to storyboard it out of how the director would see it, envision it.
Like the ad agency would get, the creative, you guys probably know how it works, but yeah, the ad agency would come up with the idea, pitch it to the client, Tide or Olive Garden, and they would say, yeah, do it. And then they would just give us the written script. And then we would delegate which guy would lay out the pencils for it. And then another guy would lay out, and it got to the point where, when you were there long enough, you got to do more and more. So,
you were punching the clock, boy.
Yeah.
You were like coming. And was this in Manhattan?
Manhattan, 9 in the morning. And then, supposedly we would end at 5.
Was this on Madison Avenue as well?
God, where was that? Lexington, near Grand Central Station.
All right. So not far.
It's like Terry Garr and Mr. Mom, the Schooner Tuna.
Oh, right. It was cool. It was crazy because it was like, you got to kind of feel like you're a part of something, part of the, and it doesn't even exist anymore. Like, at least not in studio sense. I mean, I don't do storyboards for commercials now, but the guys that I worked with are still, they do it remotely because we can, and we can scan things. And so, but to do it, in-house, in person, it was kind of a cool thing.
So you went to school in New York. Did you grow up in New York as well? Is that?
No, Pennsylvania, the suburbs of Pennsylvania. But it's I went to I went to Catholic high school. I'm not a practicing Catholic, but because I probably went to Catholic high school. So, and the art department was taught by the English teacher.
All right. So, what would some of your Catholic school teachers think about your designs in Garbage Pail Kids, and which we'll get to later? But some of them can be pretty questionable.
There was, believe it or not, a few liberal teachers in the Catholic school world,
Hmm.
at least in our class, in our school. But yeah, it's who knows. I think just looking at anything art that was a little offbeat was probably just throw them through a loop, and they wouldn't even be able to have a comment on it.
Did you have a turning point where you went from, being part of a machine to sort of doing your own stuff and having it start to really work?
I think while I was doing the storyboard stuff in Manhattan, and now living in Manhattan and working late at night, um, I'd be up still. So I'd go to shows, concerts, bands when clubs still existed, like CBGB's,
Hmm.
the Continental, and all these other clubs for local bands to perform. And
Hmm.
through those connections, I started trying to sell myself to do artwork for them.
Mm.
So I think that's where I was finding my voice, even though I was doing work for a band that kind of like let me do some crazy, it's still my voices in the rock and roll punk rock world. So
What was the first band, Joe?
beer drinking fools.
Oh,
Of course it was. Sure. Beer drinking
I
fools.
was a
Yeah.
heavy beer drinker. I don't even think I honestly didn't drink.
It draws itself,
Well,
really.
it was great because it was like I'm more in the humor side of stuff too. Like I like the rock and roll stuff, and there's like going back to Metallica. Pusshead is a guy who's been prolific with Metallica for a while, but it's very serious and I love that stuff with the skulls and the bones and the monsters and stuff. But I like going on the cartoonier side, my
Yeah.
Mad Magazine influence. So bands like Beer Drinking Fools or other acts that I would start meeting up with, which worked my way to Gwar because Gwar is a very uh, kind of like it's a very art centric band.
It's a comic book world, is what it is on stage. Yeah.
Comic book early, for people who don't know, they're basically musicians that dress up in rubber foam monster costumes from outer space. They spew fake blood into the crowd. It's very interactive.
This sounds awful.
You would not want to have blood spit on you, fake or otherwise.
No, I'm old school that way.
You don't want it in your eyes, like red and green.
No, I'd like to listen to the music. That's what I'd like, just chill. That's more my speed. But anyway, right. So Gwar was basically the one that sort of launched you in terms of doing your own individual version.
Well, for a name band, like a signed act, because they were performing out of costume as themselves at CB's, and they were approachable, and I could walk up, and I had like a dinky little website that had a couple of these local posters on it, and so it was
So you had made your own website, or you had at that point had you hired somebody to make it, or did you do it yourself?
that's how I met my wife.
Come on, please go on. I want to know this story.
Well, so another buddy of mine, they were actually two brothers, twin brothers, also from Pennsylvania. We grew up together. They moved to New York. The one twin brother went to NYU for film school. They were both artists, and in film class, as you do, you probably may know, Danny. I don't know if you went to class but you have to team up with people, to make a project, to make a film.
Sure.
So my buddy, part of his team was June, my future girlfriend and then wife, and kind of like, oh, we got to make a short film together. They roped me in to be like a homeless bum actor, to like in New York, you just got to play a bum or somebody in Central Park who's a killer or something. But yeah, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm doing, I got a lot of artwork. I need to get a website, and so and then it was part of the .com boom where websites was oh my god, you have a website? It's like,
Yeah. Well, that's why I asked. At that time, I was just wondering. So what? June was like, yeah, I can do that.
yeah, and I go, yeah, I like my rate. I mean, of course, I was like dirt poor too, so it was like $300, I think, for like.
That's a lot for a website that you don't know whether it's going to generate any income.
Yeah. So what was that? That was in 2001. It was right after 9/11. It was like in November. Or no, yeah, September 11th, 2001. So yeah, it was like October, November we met, and yeah, so it's did my website, and yeah, I mean, just from hanging out.
What's interesting is that you worked at an advertising firm, and then you were out there after hours advertising yourself. So you must have picked up some tips inside that marketing firm to go out and market yourself.
I guess so. I think at one time though, you know what, the whole like being an ad rep was definitely, I knew, not for me, for at least for a company, because they tried to kind of like groom me a bit. It's like, oh, Joe, you could probably talk to some of these other art directors, and they had me go to some of these other ad agencies.
We'd like you to wear a suit and perhaps
I didn't have to go that. Yeah, I didn't have to go that.
Spit blood out of your mouth and breathe fire.
You guys are into Gwar, right? But I was just like, I didn't know what to say, or I was like, I just handing stuff over, and I just like, yeah, it wasn't for me. I wanted to draw.
But were you tempted financially? Because at this point, what, you had a girlfriend, or you were married, or you were thinking about, getting a place together in Manhattan, which is not cheap, by the way.
No, true. I mean, yeah, it wasn't cheap. Although my first apartment was $930 a month.
God bless you.
It was a spacious studio. It was a spacious studio apartment, walk-in kitchen, and and that was in Manhattan. But no, I wasn't thinking about money on my mind at that point. I wanted to be an illustrator. I wanted to draw. I wanted to create. So
you took a risk. I mean, that's really what happened, because you could have taken the advertising route and had a little bit more financial security and a bit of a path, and you're like, fuck this, Gwar.
Yeah, probably. I mean, things got a little like, and I wasn't even worried after I wound up leaving the company, and I was left because the company itself was basically collapsing. Again, this was now early 2002. And so when work sort of stopped after 9/11 happened, and people were learning that they could work remotely, sort of, through Skype, or just scanning and emailing things, they just were letting all the artists go, and I was one of them. And then I think just a couple months after I was let go, the whole company just died. And then all the artists formed their own mini companies, and I decided to just stay independent because I was doing well with the rock poster stuff, and getting just odd freelance jobs, like weird, anything I could find on message boards.
On message boards, that's outstanding.
For the youngins out there, message boards are digital bulletin boards. I don't even know.
Well, now they have that website. I forget what it's called, but basically you can go on there and look for some kind of creative to help you in any particular way.
Yeah. I never wound up trying to go for an agent or anything like that because, I don't know.
So you still don't have an agent to this day?
No. I mean, ever since I landed my job with Topps doing the Garbage Pail Kids, it's just been consistent work coming in, so I don't have to search. I've been lucky enough.
Thank God. Who needs to give away 10% of everything they make? Who needs that?
Well, Joe, you mentioned starting art as a kid. I'm assuming you started with pencils or crayons or whatever it is. Are you now working digitally on a tablet? Is that how you do primarily your work?
No, it's still old school.
Wow, that's awesome.
So, yeah, I got a table back here. There's all sorts of pens and markers, and yeah, I do paint, airbrush. I do work in the computer once in a while just to do some coloring or something.
Mm-hmm.
Do you listen to music? Are you quiet? What do you do when you work?
I watch tons of movies and television.
Come on, you just put it on and then it's just it's like a bit of a distraction. How do you pay attention? You're busy doing your thing.
Well, I mean, you know what it is? I don't have any television or music playing when I'm doing the concept stage, when I have to think of the idea of for a painting or a scene, and I'm just roughing stuff out in pencil. But once that's done, it's then it just gets easier.
It's grunt work, yeah, right. I guess it's just filling things in and
paint. It's already done for me, or I can ink. And so yeah, I just loved how much, again, coming from the horror movie, fandom world, I don't tend to play that stuff while I'm working, only because those type of films are much more atmospheric, mm-hmm. and there's less dialogue. So it's 20 minutes will go by with just noises and sounds, where it's I usually play either thriller, drama thrillers or things like that, documentaries.
What about Garbage Pail Kids?
Well, Joe, you mentioned working for Topps now, and not only are you one of the second generation artists who works on Garbage Pail Kids, the brand, but you also directed the documentary. So you are the person to talk to about our special subject this week, which is GPK.
Talk about special. I mean, he's jumping out of his chair, Joe.
I know.
Jumping out of his chair.
Behind my desk, I actually have one of the Spaceballs Garbage Pail Kids.
I see it. Yeah.
For those who don't know what this world of snot and poop enamored kids are, give us the breakdown. What's the quick history of Garbage Pail Kids?
All right. Garbage Pail Kids are a trading card series that came out in 1985. They were a parody of the most mega popular doll on the earth called Cabbage Patch Kids. Cabbage Patch Kids, just like, if you see these videos of people going into like Walmart on Black Friday.
It was crazy. It was insane. I remember because I was a kid.
Yeah, okay.
And it was literally the garbage. If you were, I mean, like a Cabbage Patch, like if you, that's all kids wanted for Christmas. It was horrible.
It's it. Yeah. I mean, you see people stealing TVs, or not stealing, but like, fighting for like all sorts of products now. But at that time, it was just Cabbage Patch Kids for like, for Christmas and the holidays.
And what's interesting, Joe, sorry to interrupt you, but Cabbage Patch Kids have kind of fallen to the wayside to history. They're kind of gone, but Garbage Pail Kids remain.
It's true. It's true. They've become their own thing in a way after all these years. Ultimately, yeah, back in that day in '85, Topps being the mega, trading card, baseball card capital of the industry, wanted, and they've done entertainment licensing. They wanted to get the Cabbage Patch Kid license. They didn't get it. They were denied. So they figured, all right, we'll
do our own thing.
Yeah, let's make fun of them. And so that became a hit. And it did so well for Topps, the Garbage Pail Kids, that it wound up making millions upon millions. It made more money than their baseball cards at the time. All the vice presidents at the time got $1 million bonuses. Unfortunately, that was not so much the case for the creators at Topps who made it.
Isn't that interesting? That never happens. How unique.
It never happens.
I mean, they got like maybe a $50,000 bonus, which at the time.
Hey, go buy yourself some nice. Here you go. You did nice. You did good, kid. Go buy yourself some nice.
It was in that Brooklyn accent too, because they were all in Brooklyn at the time.
But it's probably important to note too, Joe, for people that this was during the very conservative 1980s, and there was a backlash against Garbage Pail Kids because of the nature of the content itself, which in turn just made kids want them more.
Yes, absolutely.
My favorite, I have to say, is it Guillotine? Guillotine?
Guillotina.
Guillotina. The best fucking one ever, where you have a baby doll girl with her head in a guillotine, waiting for it to come down.
So you can imagine why conservative people were very upset about it.
I mean, just insane.
Parent groups, educators, psychiatrists, they all deemed it, just unworthy. Teachers in schools and principals condemned it almost. Well, they for the content, but more so for the case that it was just distracting kids in class who were trading and everything. But again, it's like the amazing thing is how, to use the word viral, at a time when viral things did not exist, there was no internet. It just grew across the playgrounds to the point where it went global, and Topps is now licensing Garbage Pail Kids in other countries. They're under different names.
It's interesting because it must have been the second series, because I think that's when they became more popular where I was living. But there was only one store that would sell them too, and it was like the cool store. The other stores, they were like deemed too naughty to be sold at the other little market. So Stevens Market was the only place we could get them.
It's true. It could have been like, there's a lot of owners. In fact, the baseball league, a lot of them kind of on the right wing side of life and maybe more Christian based, were almost wanting to pull out of Topps for having Topps MLB, to produce. So it got really scary for Topps to even put out these Garbage Pail Kids.
Wow. Huh. I wonder who made that call to hold their water.
I mean, well, I guess the money was coming in from Garbage Pail Kids more than MLB. But ultimately what really hit them was then when they got the lawsuit from Cabbage Patch, the Cabbage Patch Kid company at the time. It might have been Coleco. Cabbage Patch Kid ownership has changed hands with so many different toy companies throughout the years. But at the time, yeah, they sued Topps, and they won, but in a weird way, meaning the Cabbage Patch license won. But Topps could move forward as long as they changed a few things, like the logo design.
So basically, it just had to look less like Cabbage Patch, but close enough to already being Garbage Pail anyway that nobody makes it. It doesn't make a difference anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Put cracks in the kids, cracks instead of stuffing coming out. Make them look like porcelain, things like that. So
interesting. So it didn't fall under parody.
That's what they fought for it, but there was this whole yeah, exactly, freedom of speech, parody, but that only finds its way in the form of like newspapers and magazines, whereas this was trading cards, and it was more like they're selling one physical parody. Like Mad Magazine makes fun of a bunch of things. It's not one thing all the time.
So have you, as an artist and creator for Topps, have you gotten into any hot water for parodying certain real life people and or brands?
No, we've been safe for that. We've heard back from celebrities that we've parodied that actually love it.
Hmm.
We did get one hit with a band BTS that did not
Yes, I
approve,
remember that. Yeah.
but that had to do more with I guess at the time there was a lot of Asian crime happening.
Yes. It was more the positioning of the card, not that you chose them to parody.
Right, exactly. It's like because we're always bashing on everybody, but
Hmm.
it came out at an unfortunate time. But otherwise, no. I mean, we've had the artist Pink,
Hmm.
the musician Pink. She's retweeted paintings that I've done of her as Garbage Pail Kids because she's a genuine fan. John Cena, Rob Zombie. They've
But if you do a John Cena card, can't you not see him?
uh,
Come on, come on. Danny doesn't get the joke.
exactly.
His tagline is "You can't see me." I'm sorry. I
Right,
had
right,
to.
yeah.
I had to. So, Joe, walk us through so you essentially are told what a new series is going to be based on because usually there's a theme these days, and then walk us through what like a pitch session is for you and how you come about new ideas and how many you have to bring to the table.
Right. So there's myself and three other artists. I want to mention them by name: Brent Engstrom, Dave Gross, and another Joe, Smokin' Joe McWilliams. And Dave Gross and Smokin' Joe are a lot from the Wacky Packages side of things. And Brent and I we're doing Garbage Pail Kids a bit longer. But now Dave and Smokin' join us. So the four of us have a kind of a message thread that we all jump in, and we're pretty much kind of running it. We're not the art directors. There is an art director in place, but we kind of like guide them for what the next set.
You know the brand better than anybody at this
We've been
point.
doing it because they've changed art directors, I think 3 or 4 different times,
Mhm.
and we've been around.
And you guys have been the constant, yeah.
I've been around.
So did you guys throw ideas around on the text thread?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We've got a list of so many different themes.
So what, do you just put things in your cart at the supermarket and you're like, I got an idea, and you just throw it onto the message board for them?
Well, we probably wait till we get home. Sometimes we do a FaceTime like this, and
Powwow. Don't you worry about losing a captured idea? You know, like you're at the cereal aisle, and all of a sudden you get this idea, and you're like, "Fuck, that'd be cool." Or you can hold it. You don't worry about losing it.
you should talk to my wife. She always tells me to write things down. I'm like, I got it in here. I got it in here. She's got a to-do list of like everything. She's like, brush teeth. I'm like, why do you?
Well, I feel like with like a melody or a song idea, like if I don't write it down immediately or record it immediately, it's gone, never to be found again.
No, I hear you. I hear you. Sometimes I am like that, but yeah, for the most part, I think when it's Garbage Pail Kids, it's like so just in the frontal lobe cortex there that it's like, yeah, I'm always thinking of it. But yeah, it's we always come up with these crazy ideas, and we got a list of all these themes, and then we shoot them over to the art director at the time, whoever's there.
Have you ever struggled with like coming up with a good pun name? Because I mean that's part of it as well. Like Guillotina is fantastic. Do you guys ever like, fuck, what are we gonna do? What do we call this one?
For
Do you start with the pun name and then go with the other? I mean, or does it work both ways?
I would say it works both ways, but more so where we have the character already drawn, and then we come up with the joke afterwards. And if we really do have I mean, we all come up with our own names, but again, like between myself and the other three guys, we like, I really can't think of a name for this. Somebody pops in with it. I mean, they're very creative. They're very artistically creative. They know how to come up with a joke. It's about writing too. I mean, going back to my School of Visual Arts, you know, schooling. Even though I went for cartooning and comic books, it's basically they teach you how to be a writer. You have to learn how to write, a story. So it's different than a lot of the other classes, like fine art or still like painting. So with Garbage Pail Kids, there's writing involved because we have to write. The concept we come up with is writing.
But there's also a story in the art too. That's what makes them so interesting, is because it's not just the pun. You can find extra little things in the art if you look at it long enough.
All right, for our listeners, the two of you, I want the name and a short description of one of your favorites.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, one from each.
Well, for me, I grew up, at the start of it in J Decay, which was a zombie character named after me.
J Decay? Is that
J Decay? Yeah.
And he was a zombie?
He was a zombie coming out of the grave, and I think part of it is you're always drawn to the character that is your name.
Sure.
Right.
I don't like the guy with my name. He's a baby with a bunch of holes in him.
Oh yeah. Oh, Drippin' Dan, I think maybe.
Drippin' Dan.
Yeah. I know. And through the years, there have been like multiple names of the same person. But yeah, I mean, I would say for myself, Joe Blow was a character. It was a parody of Bazooka Joe. which Topps also owned.
Is he a bubblegum guy, Joe Blow?
Bubblegum guy, his face is all bubblegum. But also like Nasty Nick, who's the vampire kid. And these are all like all those first, second, third series characters are fan favorites in the collector world of Garbage Pail Kids. In the fandom world of Garbage Pail Kid collectors, they have a top tier list, and like, you know, so
Adam Bomb is number one. Yeah,
I wanted to ask you about that. The fandom. I mean, you know, there's a huge I was gonna say fandom about this, but and you've had a chance to interact with these people.
Oh yeah, it's great. So I mean, we've, you know, when we get to do conventions or like New York Comic Con, or I've been able to do San Diego Comic Con and signing events. Yeah, they'll come out with their cards. And now Garbage Pail Kid product, which I've been fortunate enough to work on. I've been able to do some of the crazy licensing stuff. Yeah, Jason's holding up one of the wrestling figures that we've done. I've done a Garbage Pail Kid Monopoly box, cereal box.
I saw that. That was amazing.
I mean, yeah, dream stuff. What do I have? I did a Stranger Things card series. That's not really a product, but it's a card series. But yeah, like the R.L. Stine books that we got to do. R.L. Stine wrote a series of chapter books, and I got to do the covers on those. A cookbook.
Well, being a horror fan too, Joe, you must have loved the horror series that you put out. That GPK put out.
The Universal.
Oh, the horror, right? Is that what it's called?
Oh, yeah. Oh, the horrible. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. We got to tap into like some obscure horror films and stuff. And I mean, that's where it gets into a little bit of like, all right, now some of these paintings are definitely for people in their 40s and 50s who grew up with it, but get what these horror films are that we're parodying, like Suspiria, or like, you know,
Bad Influence. I remember that one. I was like, oh my God, they did Bad Influence.
Right. Oh, very classic cult horror films, brands like that. But one thing that we're trying to still do is get the younger audience, and it's very tricky because, you know, the younger crowd, it's like if it's not on Roblox or you know, some sort of gaming, you know, thing, then it's going to be hard to kind of get their attention. So you know, we're trying to think of that.
I have a listener question for you.
Yeah.
I find very interesting from Wally W. Wally asks, have you put any hidden Easter eggs into any of your GPK designs?
Yes. See, so we get asked that quite a bit. I think the I don't know if shocking or sad answer would be not really. I haven't. Not that I wouldn't. I'm not against.
Yeah, break his heart. Go ahead, Joey. Break his friggin' heart.
Is there like tear emojis happening on the?
He's been staring at the cards for years, just waiting for something to pop up.
I mean, of course, in the very beginning, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna hide my name or hide something there. But then it got to the point where it's like, I just want to get to I got to get to the next card. It's too much thinking. If it comes to me instantly, I would. One of the artists, Brent, this isn't really a hidden. Well, it might be hidden, but he had a real fly land on his painting, and he smashed it, and he just left it on there, scanned it, and it's in the card.
Nice. Well, I want to share my story about the fandom because this sort of involved my whole family and the shock that is the community of Garbage Pail Kids fans. So we had bought a hobby box back in like 2022, one box, which probably has, I don't know, like 30 packs. And I have two kids and we're all sitting around the table and opening it. And my daughter opens one pack and there's a super refractor 1-of-1 Garbage Pail Kid. And I think, oh, I don't know much about this. We'll put it on eBay. Ended up selling for over $1,000. Blew my mind. People were like writing me instantly as soon as it went up, begging to, I'll give you 500, I'll give you 800. And I said, well, we'll just let this ride it out. It ended up selling for like $1,200. And I thought, who is buying a Garbage Pail Kid for $1,200? But they are loving this stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like for anything, there's a collector, but there's a group out there, and sometimes they're doing it for the investment. You know, they might be trying to flip it, as they say, take it.
But most likely, Joe.
No, absolutely. But there's a whole, you know, genuine fandom out there, like I said, that I get to meet at shows, who are buying cards and they'll want me to sign them and they want me to put their names on them. So I know they're keeping them. You know. And that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, if I got that, I wouldn't have known. You know, sometimes I get asked questions like how much this is worth or how much is in a pack or the ratios. Like, I just work here. I don't know the odds and all things like that. I think when I realized how valuable they were was when I first started at Topps. They introduced this thing called sketch cards, which are blank cards that are given to a bunch of artists, and we have to draw these quickie little, well, they should be sketches, but collectors are now expecting beautiful finished pieces of artwork. But you're getting a stack of like 200 blank cards, and the artist has to draw on them, hand them back into Tops, and then Tops disperses it into all the packs. And so that's like the new chase thing that people want. That has changed since the 80s. The 80s, all it was about was completing a set. Now you have to have all these different like subsets. And the sketch card thing, when I found out that sketch cards go for crazy amounts of money, like hundreds of dollars, for just a doodle, I was realizing there was definitely a
You realize you had to start selling your own sketch cards.
Well, I mean, of course, then of course, you oversaturate it, and then it completely plummets.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't do the sketch cards anymore. They've been able to, me and most of the main base guys, we don't do the sketch card stuff. So they've been able to find a lot of good artists.
But one thing you do have to do, Joe, that wasn't in the 80s is now there are C variations too, which means you need to come up with a third punny name. Does that make things even more difficult?
I just wrote the art director today. I was like, I got the A and B name. Whoever in post production wants to come up with the C name, I'm fine with. I don't even care.
Like, I relinquish control on the C name.
We do for every set. Each one of us do about 40 paintings. Anywhere between like 38 to 45 paintings every retail set. And so we do this like once or twice a year, sometimes 3. And so it's like, imagine, but we have to like get these 40 paintings when we get the approval to start. We have like maybe a month or a month and a half to do them.
Really? Wow.
So you have a schedule, is what you're saying.
A painting a day. This is after all the pencils are handed in. So so yeah, we do 1 to 2 paintings a day.
So what is your production cycle from start to finish as soon as you hear that a new series is coming down the line?
Well, when they say, okay, we got the next theme, so we all work on our pencil sketches. That's a few weeks.
From Jason Basin to Danny Dummy. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Jason Burns.
And I'm Danny Dummy. I'm Danny Nucci, and this is the What About podcast.
Danny, today we are throwing back to something I loved growing up, which is Garbage Pail Kids. I'm curious, like, what were some of your go-to toys and/or interests as a kid?
My interests as a kid were drugs. So I liked a lot of drugs. That was good as a kid.
Do drugs retain their value after a long time?
I mean, it's a nice, it's nice if you can get them consistently. It's tough as a kid. It's easier than buying beer, but on par with that. No, I liked Vespas.
Vespas
as a kid, yeah, like scooters. Those like Italian.
Sure.
Yeah, I liked Vespas. I liked GI Joes.
Mm-hmm.
Back when I was a kid, when I first moved to the United States from Italy.
At what age for the listener?
That was I was 7,
mm-hmm.
and I moved to New York, and I started playing with these action figures called Big Jim and Big Jeff by Mattel. They were like these macho Ken dolls.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite a G.I. Joe, but like a macho Ken. And I
Mm-hmm.
used to like do little adventures with those guys.
I bet you really can't market a toy called Big Jim to kids anymore.
Yeah, they were all big. It was like Big Jim, Big Jeff, Big Josh. Literally, Big Josh had an axe. I remember that. Like, and if you push the back of their on the back, they bring the hand down like a hammer.
Chopping action.
Yeah, hand chopping
like
action.
That.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, the guy today is fantastic. Joe Simko, what a talent. I went on his website and I got lost, which I shared with him. He's an incredible artist and quite a busy man, as we learned. Artist extraordinaire, Joe Simko.
Hey, Joe.
There he is.
Thanks for reaching out. I appreciate the invite.
Thank you, man. You are one talented little bastard. I tell you that, man. Holy cow.
Thank you.
I was looking at your website. Now I got lost, man. It's like it's got this lovely scroll effect because you scroll down as opposed to the side, and I was just like mesmerized. There's so much interesting detail in it. It's really, really cool. And I was like, it's like Robert Williams and Crumb evolved.
Thank you. Well, yeah. I mean, those guys are great. I mean, yeah. I mean, I've just been fortunate enough to work in the field of arts, actually be able to get work doing art, and I take it to different, it's kind of all still in the same theme, but different avenues and different jobs, like from comic books to poster art.
Yeah, I love the poster art. I mean, there's some Misfits stuff in there that's just outstanding.
Yeah, favorite bands that I've got to work with. So yeah, all of it's been just an amazing ride. So yeah,
So I actually had a question about that, Joe. Is you got a band like Metallica who has four very distinct personalities, and you're having to get approval from all of them. I'd imagine. Are those? Are those poster gigs? Are those tough to get to the final finish line for?
that one I lucked out. So the operations manager for Metallica reached out to me, so I just dealt with him.
Nice.
I didn't have to deal with four-headed monster,
Mm-hmm.
the guys. And I think they were doing a bunch of stuff. It was for their 40th anniversary tour. So they had a few different poster artists doing stuff. The poster I did was for the collectors or the fans who bought into this big package hotel weekend where you get to like all this merch and you get to go like see their show. And in their hotel room is a bunch of swag, and my poster was part of that swag bag for the. So
Nice.
I think it just came down to like they were just approving anything if they were accepting my stuff. But they had just so much stuff going on that it was just like yeah, I didn't have any problem. It was just like whatever I gave them luckily was good enough. And so for that band I dealt with just the operations manager. Misfits I deal with either the promoter or now I deal with the manager, John Cafiero. But Jerry Only, I mean, we know each other well, and so it's incredible to work with these bands. And Gwar, I grew up listening to, and those guys I deal directly with.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
do they all have to approve?
not real. I mean, I deal with the drummer for Gwar is usually the guy who runs kind of the operations also. So, uh, and they're easy too. Just like whatever I wind up giving them, and they just continue to use my stuff. And
Yeah, just enjoy that. That's not a common experience.
yeah, I've been on the other end. I've had jobs when I was first starting. After I got out of college, I graduated from the School of Visual Arts in Manhattan here in New York. And, I was just trying to freelance on my own, take anything, and so I was just
So
like,
you started basically going, this is what I'm going to do. You went to college for it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, ever since a kid, drawing, most kids draw. At some point, they probably fall out of it. I stuck with it, just being a horror movie fan, comic book fan, to want to tell my own stories. I took the comic book route and went to School of Visual Arts for I have a degree in cartooning, so which we were taught.
Shocking.
Yeah, right. A real degree, a Bachelor of Arts in and like we were taught by comic book artists from DC, Marvel, Mad Magazine, and so, but it's impossible to, well, not impossible, but it was very hard to get work in the comic book industry like right out of the gate.
Well, you could. You just have to do it for free, right?
We would have independent comic book guest speakers in our come to our class, like, don't get into comic books, get into this field. You're not going to make money.
Well, I've been working in comics for about 20 years, Joe. I work primarily on the educational side now with books that go into libraries and schools. But my daughter wants to do this as well, and I'm